with him. When he says that, he always says, don't come and ask me to be a Buddhist. You know, although no, he thinks it's good that people learn about each other's religions and learn the different, like maybe learning about meditating or learning about ethics and sharing ethics and seeing the conflicts of them and also overcoming a little bit crazy idea that people get in religions that only my religion is good and I have to convert you to it. That's dangerous, he always says. So it's good to learn about each other's things, but to practice to stick with one's own thing because it's one's own culture and everything. He agrees with that. Then occasionally he will look sideways if I happen to be in the room, someone like me, and he will say, some people can't help themselves. And they do become Buddhists. But although very poor Buddhists, I'm sorry, I do drink the occasional Heineken and whatever. I agree with that, absolutely. It is past time in history for people to try to convert each other in these triumphal things that everybody's going to be a Christian, everybody's going to be a Baptist, everybody's going to be a Catholic, everybody's going to be a Buddhist, everybody's going to be a Muslim. This is incorrect. And, you know, if we could if we had a medium who would communicate with the founders, Jesus, Muhammad, Buddha, they would say, forget about it. You know, like, no fighting in my name. They would all say, Muhammad had to fight in his particular history. You know, he had to defend his people and himself from the Meccans who were really slaughtering them. And so, unfortunately, there is that example in that tradition. You know. But on the other hand, that's pretty unique. But he didn't say you should always fight and kill people. Now and then he would get a little heated up when he just had a bunch of his friends killed. But his original message, especially in Mecca before he was being persecuted, is completely no compulsion in religion, no killing anybody, no in the name of religion, absolutely not, and so on. He was much, and that's his basic idea. And the more intelligent Muslims who are not just using the religion as a cover for their own violence and their own aggression, they will agree with that. They will not interpret his little more citable statements as being necessary to follow. So that's how I agree with Thurman about that. And I also don't think, when Time magazine did a issue 10 years ago, like Buddhism Comes to America, they said I was the Jeremiah of American Buddhism. Because they were annoyed with me because the religion editor was finally getting a front page story. So he was very happy Buddhism comes to America. And I was saying Buddhism has not come to America. This is not correct. There's a few Buddhists here because this is a pluralistic country, and that's fine, and that's legal. But the idea that Buddhism is going to somehow take over America is wrong. And you look, you guys on the cover, you have Brad Pitt in a Tibetan jacket because he's acting a part of a German guy in a movie who lived in Tibet who didn't even become Buddhist himself. That Heinrich Harrer was not a Buddhist. He never became a Buddhist. And Brad Pitt is not a Buddhist. So you're acting like he's a Buddhist because he's wearing a Tibetan shirt. I mean, give me a break. And the two things about Buddhism that show that Buddhism has really arrived in a culture are a widespread belief in former and future life on the ideological level. And that is not present among most American Buddhists. Most of them say, oh, that's some old-fashioned thing. We don't need that because they want to be secular, like they want to be happy with Sam Harris and Richard Dawkins and people like that. And so they think that's not necessary, whereas that is essential. Because Buddhism is an evolutionary view of life. And to become a Buddha is to evolve in a certain direction. You know, from beyond even being ordinarily human, but human is the closest jumping off point. And all humans have been every animal. Charles Darwin was personally a turtle in the Galapagos, like a billion lifetimes before, from the Buddhist point of view. And so, therefore, without former and future life, that idea is meaningless. And especially in the context where you simply don't exist at death, then who needs nirvana? You just don't exist. I mean, you know, it's ridiculous. You can't possibly do it. And the second thing is monasticism. Buddhism depends upon the monastic education system. And I can't tell you how many so-called Buddhist monks we have in America with like 2 ex-wives and 4 children and 1 present wife and a girlfriend. And they say, I'm a monk. And I always tell them, come on, you're not a monk. You can be a priest, if you like. You know, married priest. You're not a monk. No, we're monks. The Japanese government is so clever, you see. When they wanted to break the power of Buddhism in Japan, in order to develop nationalism and militarism to fight off the imperialists, the Westerners, they made all the monks get married. They did, by force. They forced them to marry. And they made the monasteries become the private property of the abbots and the abbot's family. Because the monastic thing is the antidote socially to militarism.